There was the whole thing on Twitch. I remember there was a whole thing on Twitch where like they were like just like covering up like just the nips or something. And there was like thousands of people on these streams. I'm like, oh my gosh. You know, I had to go to law school. It's a lot of work. Liquid Rock. Yeah, I think she's pretty amazing. I think she's pretty amazing. Hey, super thank you, Katie. And this one from Ray K. Yes, says everyone was gobsmacked with the receipt she had. Haven't seen a more prepared lawyer in a long time. It was so good, right? Every question, she's, oh, here you go. Here you go. And she was really classy about it. I got to tell you, she was very classy. She wasn't rude. She wasn't mean. She wasn't like vitriolic in any way. She just said, no, here are the facts. Just matter of fact, here's this and here's this. And when that Gabe guy came out, and the Gabe was like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing here. He's ridiculous. She wants to talk to me and I have nothing to say. Blah, blah, blah. Well, then she was even like kind of coy about it. She said, well, we have some evidence that somebody was making phone calls. You know, somebody was making phone calls to Mr. Bradley, and like that's a problem on your victims, you know, and so Judge, I'm just letting you know. And the judge was like, oh, okay, reading between the lines. And then the judge asked her, it's like, okay, so
Happy Valentine's Day.
Okay, so are you alleging, Miss Merchant, that Gabe made the phone call? She says, yeah. It's like, oh, and then he just sat there. It's like, oh my gosh, he just sat there exploding, right, fuming. Wild. And the bravado, man, I couldn't believe it. It's like, that guy, dude, you should have just shown up. Wild times. Okay, so thank you for that, Ray K. Fun comment. Hey, my goodness. Oh, my friends, we have an anniversary in the house. John McGarvey and his lovely wife, Rebecca McGarvey, celebrating their anniversary today. Happy anniversary, you two. A Valentine's Day anniversary, nonetheless. Well, I hope you have a very amazing day today. Happy Valentine's Day. Mrs. Rebecca McGarvey in the house. John, hope you guys have a beautiful day. Grateful to have you both.
I got a Manly Man box too. Here, I'll send you.
Celebrate big time, my friends, and enjoy.
She sent me a burner target for the practice balls. She got me.
Safety,
here, I'll send it to you on Telegram.
Something like that. Yeah, it's a great quote. That's the one that was on the tip of my mind. Was that Franklin? Who said that? John, how many years, man? How many years of the anniversary? We got Tanya saying happy anniversary to the McGarveys in the house. Love that. What's going on in here? I can't even follow this stream, says Kate. Well, we're at the free-for-all party.
I got a bouquet of bacon.
We're wrapping it up. Hey, Rob, it sounds like your crush on Alina might have some competition. Nah, I don't think so. I mean, she's Alina. What can you say? 51K. But I gotta say, Ashley's pretty damn great. JC says, Rob, you know that if you wear tight shirts, you have guns capable of hypnotizing the masses. Never underestimate yourself. Yeah, I think I just get more small t-shirt comments than anything. That's really what that results in. When I wear tight shirts, they're like, hey, Rob, get a regular size shirt, you weird freak. You know, it's like, all right. All the bros in the house, like, hey, you know, dress like a normal human. And my response to that is the shirts are just going to get tighter. So we'll see you on the next one. Jester Bob, absolutely fantastic indeed. Spanks are the same concept. LOL, they're for married people to take the jelly out later. Spanks. I don't even know what those are. Are those an outfit you can wear? NY says, so that is my home district, NY3. The damn Tom Scudo, he went to grammar school with me. He had that seat before in Santos beat him. The district comes up again in November. He's going to flip back to Republican, trust me. They didn't spend the money now. They're waiting to get out the vote and using his win to energize the base. They didn't spend the money now. Well, hopefully you're right, NY, because the margin in the House, I think, is like razor thin. Razor thin. Dana! Hey, Rob, you can compete with the arms. I mean, arms are okay. They're not the girls, that's for sure. Sweet says, makes me think of Mrs. Doubtfire, the padded bras, his woman suit. Hey, Lady I says, during that interview at some point, it reminded me of Return of the Jedi, when Luke was talking to the Emperor, trying to provide cover and distraction, while the Rebel force snuck in under the cover, he thought, until the Emperor told him, yes, I am.
Those cookies are one of those, if you know things. They're very available.
It's a trap.
While you're incarcerated. I used to eat the hell out of them.
He's like a lobster? Was he a lobster?
First time she got them for me, I'm like, oh, wow. How'd you know?
Good to see you, 51K. Okay, my friend, so we're going to wrap it up. Let me make sure I didn't forget anything. Jester Bob says, I was referring to those jugs as the woman being really smart. Oh, yeah. Yeah, like a brain, like almost a euphemism for the brain. Which, totally. Oh, here's another one from Sweet. Oh, Sweet. Oh, it's a Valentine from Jen Saki. I'll always circle back to you. Oh, Jen. To America from Jen Saki. Thank you, Sweet, for that. Happy Valentine's Day, Sweet, to you.
Oh, you mean the
What's
fake
up,
cheese?
Says, good stuff as always, Rob.
The cheese food it's called? I think it was never. There was never even any real cheese in those things. It was cheese. They called it cheese food.
Things can get a little top heavy here. We're talking about some.
I'm like, well, don't you need milk for cheese?
Sandy says, I'm glad they impeached him while the Senate is busy with the trial. They cannot be more harm.
Yeah, you can't melt it.
They cannot be doing more harm.
But you can light it on fire.
More impeachments. Please.
Like a tiki torch.
You get a free impeachment. You get a free impeachment. Everybody gets free impeachments. Courtesy of Oprah. And of course the motorboats.
Nope.
And yeah, I mean, they are pretty amazing. Definitely have a lower propensity not to like them. This old guy says, okay, so Ashley's well endowed, so what? She chose that dress because it's an absolute power color. Kudos. This old guy. Kudos. Yeah, and she knew what she was doing. She's sharp. Is this Knox Bierman? Oh my goodness, Knox. Woo! Knox, is this you? I think it is. Woo! What a stunner, man. Look at this one. That's what we're talking about, okay? Defense attorney extraordinaire. Knox. Looking sharp. Looking so good. Knox Bierman in the house.
All right, dude, where are you going?
That's how you go into court.
I think these are the ugliest fucking Jeeps in the world. Those pickup Jeeps.
Rocky says boots.
Reminds me of Humvees, and believe me, I learned to get tired of those fucking things. Be right back.
In Texas, we get men who wear butt skin. Yeah, this is great. I mean, this is nice looking up. Looking sharp, get stuff done. And it matters. Like, it actually matters. Like, how you look actually matters. So, I love that. Husky says, I'm late coming in this morning. I just saw something about Democrats seizing those seats. Yeah. Not good, Husky. So it sounds like the former seat is a pivotal House flip. 97% of the votes in the projected winner, Thomas Susie, over the Nancy. And NY says it would have been better to not impeach Biden now. Now Biden can blame the border on Republican partisanship. Yeah, we'll see. I'm not sure if America is going to buy that. Like, it's such a stark contrast. It's such a clear difference. It's like the border was okay. Now it's an absolute disaster. And it's clear. We need to debate it. We can see it. The U.S. complaining. The Congress complaining. We'll see if the people buy it. My friends, we're going to leave it right there. We are coming back in a few short hours. Already got some stuff percolating right now. So, David Schaefer in Fannie Willis' case submitted another supplemental filing, and it's pretty good. I was right through the first little bit of it. And there's apparently what he did is he went through Nathan Wade's interrogatories for his divorce, and then compared and contrasted his statements with his affidavit. So he's basically saying, you're a liar. Here are the two statements you made that are being proven on the jury. So we're going to go through that very likely. We also have Michael Schellenberger. He posted something saying the CIA is actually responsible for orchestrating the initial spying on Trump's campaign back in 2016, which saves money for Obama's CIA. And then, also, there was this wild letter that came out. There's a group of Georgia senators who sent a letter over to Merrick Garland and the FBI saying no one's investigating our election for that. So I think about that for 2 months. So we're getting ready for a great show, my friends, and I'm grateful that you joined us here today, this morning, for our window screen. It's a beautiful Wednesday, and so I hope you're getting out there, you're getting after it, you're knocking out all the things you have to do as the week rolls on. We're going to be there, be back in a few short hours to get into it all again. Thanks for joining us this morning, and I hope you make it a great day. See you soon. Bye.
Good Lord, the dude in that Jeep just bought 2 cartons of cigarettes. $180. Woo! $180 for 2 cartons of cigarettes. That's crazy, man. I'm so glad I quit smoking cigarettes. Ugh. Yeah, I couldn't afford it. Definitely not going to bitch about how much my vape juice costs anymore. I buy a jar of vape juice about once a week, and it's like $20. I do that too. Really, one joint will last me 3 days, unless my son's over. Then we'll smoke 3 joints. But yeah, honestly, marijuana's cheaper and much better for you. You're right. It almost is. Although now, that price for Coke will last me a night. $100 was a good night. That's about all it took. Right. And why is nicotine so addicting then? And indoctrinated. Yeah, I was never big time into it. Well, I mean, maybe at one point, but I de-escalated for evolved pretty quick. Find Russell Brand here. Russell, yeah. Live.
On the course tonight, tell me what it is plainly that you're saying that some deaths were caused by friendly fire, some of the more egregious accounts were untrue, the beheadings and the rape charges and the mass, but like what was untrue? Suggesting that there was a sort of like coordinated media effort to ensure that October the 7th was reported in a
Happy Valentine's Day. I'm indoctrinated.
When we are reporting,
I got a bouquet of bacon strips.
Oppositional to even the immediately received wisdom on an event almost
From a place called Manly Man.
Prevent ourselves from out of, this is probably something I have to be more cautious of than you, becoming
a target from a
tied to sort of
lazy
lazy conspiracy theory, pre-existing tropes. How do you create clear distance between your reporting and anti-Semitism? How do you manage that? Is it possible or is it impossible because there's almost an attempt to fill that gap by the people that oppose the type of reporting engaged?
Well, it's unfortunate that the Israel lobby is to accuse everyone who opposes the atrocities that Israel has been committing against Palestinians for, not just since October 7th, but for 75 years or more. They accuse them all of anti-Semitism. People who are principal opponents of the ideology of Zionism all get labeled anti-Semites now, so they've cheapened the idea of anti-Semitism to the point where the real anti-Semites feel emboldened and feel like they're the real truth tellers.
Yeah.
So
are you guys religious? Are you going to go get ashied up today?
Persevere and expand in order to justify Israel's existence as a sanctuary for Jews. And we can see from October 7th, it's not a very good sanctuary. It's definitely not keeping them safe by holding some 7 million people under occupation, discrimination behind de facto prison walls. So when October 7th erupted, there was no doubt that people were killed in horrible ways.
Yeah, I mean,
Israeli
not in the Christian
by
faith.
Hamas militants and others.
I'm more spiritual than religious.
They were shot, for example. But what Israel needed to do, which is the same thing that, for example, the American National Security.
I think there's a little bit of
that Dick Cheney's needed
accuracy in just about all religions.
Or what the
but I think all of them also
January 6th, which was
have their negatives.
I witnessed it.
So.
9/11 was a horrible attack that killed 3,000 people. They need to get us to decontextualize the event, to become traumatized, and to turn off our critical faculty so we surrender to their solution, which is massive national security dragnet, huge military assault, not just on one focused area, but across the Middle East, and a giant defense buildup and profits for themselves. And we're not allowed to ask critical questions. And so what we did on after October 7th was not only explain the context for this, which was political. Hamas did have clear political goals, the main one being capturing as many Israelis as they could to force Israel and the West, which funds Israel, gives it unlimited weapons, to negotiate with them because they have no diplomatic channels at all and they're under siege. But beyond that, we showed how the death toll was inflated. We now know it wasn't 1,400. About 690 civilians were killed and hundreds of Israeli soldiers. But more than that, there's this gigantic scandal which Israelis are up in arms about friendly fire. And we were one of the first English language publications to expose this, to highlight the testimony of actual witnesses to tanks firing on homes filled with Israelis because they were being held captive by Hamas, knowing that Israelis were there. We were among the few independent publications that everyone should be reading right now, Electronic Intifada Mondialize, and expose the testimony of these survivors, which was only known to some Hebrew language Israeli media consumers, and we brought that into the English language realm, and now we're being punished for this. wrote about the Hannibal Directive, which is actually
Yeah, basically.
one directive
I got a couple of interviews coming
within
in.
the Israeli military that authorizes Israeli, for example, helicopter pilots or Israeli soldiers to kill other Israeli soldiers or Israeli citizens if they're being held captive, in order to deny the militant faction of the Palestinians the possibility of a prisoner swap, because politically that's so damaging for Israel, as we now see. We wrote about, we debunked.
My boss is wondering though, because my numbers keep going down and I have no control over it. Customer keeps letting a couple people go every other week and
November, early October at the United
not asking
Nations
for more people. So I got a stack of people waiting, but most of them have probably already found other jobs because it's been weeks.
And Hillary Clinton.
It's pretty frustrating.
Hillary Clinton, who lied about Iraqi WMD. Hillary Clinton, whose State Department under Obama falsely claimed that Gaddafi's soldiers were hepped up on Viagra and going out and mass raping women in Libya in order to justify a NATO intervention that not only destroyed Libya, but large parts of Africa. This was a clear PSYOP campaign to continue to shock the Western public into submission, to prevent us from thinking critically, prevent us from calling for a ceasefire, which would actually allow for the release of the hostages in the Gaza Strip, and to allow this genocidal assault to continue. And, you know, we're being punished for it, but more and more we're actually starting to see that we're also being vindicated. The New York Times ran what was supposed to be the gold standard of stories alleging that systematic sexual assault was employed.
They're still paying me more than they're paying almost every recruiter in the company.
Itself has refused to run a video report.
So it's either going to be I'm moved to another office where I'm going to have to be there at fucking 8 a.m. every day, which I am cool with doing, or they let me go.
The debunking by other independent outlets.
They know that that's not in my control, but it doesn't matter. It's the bottom line. It used to be a family-owned company. Now it's got a board
Israeli government, which is
more worried about the bottom line than anything. So it's just about any company these days.
International consent for this hideous assault that we see unfolding before our eyes. So as long as we can think critically, whether it's about October 7th, January 6th, 9/11, or any of these dates that are rammed down our throats, we're constantly told they're the next Pearl Harbor, the second Holocaust. As long as we can think critically about that, we can actually come to rational solutions.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't mind doing that. I did it. I've done it for years, and in fact, right up until November of 2022, I've been doing that for years.
This is before the COVID event. He actually referenced pandemics.
Almost 10 years, and
So,
I'd earned my way back off a second shift. Now it's like in November of 2022, they asked me to cover this place over at the factory temporarily, and now that's what I have to, where I have to be every day, Monday through Thursday, for 2 fucking hours.
Israeli security forces.
I bend over backwards for the company, and I understand that if I'm not flexible, I'm probably gone. So that's why I just want to do the IT stuff full time, honestly. And I don't even mind driving all the way out to Green Springs every day.
To note that the nature
if I have to.
of October the 7th, the nature as initial reporting described it, and I feel one must caveat this with any people being, I'm an anti-war person. I don't think that should ever be a solution. I think non-violent solutions should always be. I think that diplomacy should always be prized and heralded and sought. Nevertheless, I saw many online pundits say that the reason that the response to these events can be so aggressive and will involve the death of many citizens is because there is a unique inflection to the type of violence and therefore the character of the people that inflicted that violence that means you cannot employ.
No, I won't quit YouTube. I mean, YouTube will quit me before I quit YouTube. But yeah, I'll just find time other ways. But what I'm saying is with IT, I could be doing a lot of sub jobs with it too. I get offers all the time. and most of them aren't that far away. And I did that for a long time, but that was my full-time job. But right now, I'm making enough where those really aren't worth it to me with this job. So if I didn't have the staffing job, and I couldn't convince the legends to take me on full time, I'd have to start picking up some of those jobs. I mean, I got a lot of, you live according to what you make, and
sort of this lockstep COVID response.
And the way the economy is now, I used to be able to live a whole lot more comfortable than I do now because.
No, I'm not talking about COVID, but the response was kind of developed in a lab.
Now all these extra jobs are needed to pay almost to pay bills.
They understand how it became profitable.
And I'm 52. I'll be 53 this year, man. I got to think about, am I going to be working until I die?
What we're seeing with Israel right now.
Probably.
Similar, and this is a large
I got no fucking economy. I got no pension.
So Israel is in a unique position. First of all, it has no borders. We don't know where its borders are. It refuses to set borders. And it determines where.
That's why men die young. They fucking worry about this shit constantly.
Control. It controls the entire West Bank through the direct occupation of its military or through an occupation subcontractor, which is known as the Palestinian Authority. Then the Gaza Strip is basically a open air.
I mean, I always try to keep 30 days of savings.
Controls from the outside through the panopticon model.
But, quite often,
unique and contemporary.
I got to dip into it. Sometimes to actually pay bills. So, I mean, I build it back up again to where I want it.
It controls millions of people, but refuses to allow them to be citizens or even residents of its state because they're not Jewish. In order to be a Jewish state, it has to maintain a majority of Jews.
They say probably about 80%
within its citizenry, but it doesn't know what to do with the rest of it. So the Gaza Strip is basically a human warehouse or panopticon-style prison, and the Israeli leadership never knew what it could do with those people. And after October 7th, they decided, hey, we can finally get rid of them. We can basically destroy all of their hospitals, all of their schools, the whole northern area of the Gaza Strip, and which it has done. There are no functioning hospitals or schools. 85% of homes have been destroyed in the northern part of the Gaza Strip, where most of the population lives, where all of the administrative and government offices.
Hey, Jody.
And then we're just going to keep.
I don't think the wife would be cool with that.
The border opens into Egypt. We just push them out and get rid of these people.
Well, I guess it would depend on how much I actually made.
And we're testing new.
And I ain't got the fucking energy for that.
Legally, we're changing the parameters.
I'd probably lose some weight, that's for sure.
And we're testing new methods.
Only beards.
Advanced spy tech, surveillance systems, and new weapons. And then we're going to go around the world and market those weapons and that technology that we use to carry out this hideous act. And we're going to send out our legal experts to advise on the government, because we're not going to be the only ones who are going to do this in a world where people are getting poorer, people are getting.
I'm one of the worst ones to ask for help, too.
This is sweeping the West.
It's been like that my whole life.
Going to profit from it. Yotam Feldman is an Israeli
fucking pride sucks, man.
Who made one of the most important documentaries. Unfortunately, I don't think it's online. It's called The Lab, and it's all about how Israel, through its experience with controlling a restive indigenous population, dominating them, and often slaughtering them, has
74 miles an hour.
fueled its economy.
I did not realize how fast I was
by
going.
taking all of its weapons and saying, we've tested our weapons, you haven't, so our weapons are the best. Our spy is the best. And according to Yotam Feldman, 100,000 families in Israel, not people, 100,000 families in a population of about 6.5 million
Comb the beard.
rely on that industry. That industry of arms and spy tech, surveillance. I mean, look at the Pegasus system from the NSO group. That's the most advanced.
Yeah, it's braidable now. It's just
the drone itself was invented by Israel. And
braided beard just doesn't look all that great in a business setting.
So advanced because it's been testing it and using it again and again to control.
I actually had beads in it for our wedding.
That it was granted a sweetheart deal by Albert.
Rub the beard oil?
The CEO of Pfizer cut a sweetheart deal with Netanyahu to test the mRNA vaccine on Israel. Israel was the first country to get universal vaccination under this deal with Pfizer. Why? Because their surveillance, they want to report back on the effectiveness of the vaccine more than any other country could, along with Albert Bourla's own commitment to the project of Zionism. And that's how I knew that the vax wasn't going to work. It wasn't going to prevent infection or transmission, because I looked at what first happened in Israel, where they all got
probably.
it, and they all complied too.
I'd have to practice quite a few times though, because I haven't done it that often.
So that's how we need to. I think that's how we need to understand Israel.
Like Dirty said, it does.
It's about, Jewish.
Fucking turns into like cornrows pretty quick. I mean, I shower every day, and I use a beard shampoo and a beard conditioner, and then I put a little bit of beard butter in there, and then a little bit of oil. It's keep manageable, or it just gets all fuzzy, frizzy. You got hairs flying all over the place.
Recent congressional hearings.
Look at this guy. What lane you gonna be in, homie?
And the online safety of children. It becomes plain that there's an agenda to present the threat of child pornography, child bullying, child safety as a problem that requires government intervention and additional regulation of social media spaces. We've discussed for some time how across the world now there are censorship laws being introduced that are eerily similar in spite of emerging from independent nations. And it seems that ultimately, whenever one discusses geopolitical issues such as war, certainly pandemics and matter of public health, the revelation of a set of relationships via these non-government agencies, philanthropic groups, think tanks,
This guy is
starts to
gonna
emerge.
swing out because they got somebody flying up in the side here.
Do you think, is that what's going to define independent media space? The ability to report on groups like the Atlantic Group that you said, Atlantic Council, or comparable organisations, which I talked to Michael Schellenberger recently, and he said that there are these, often deep state, but sometimes privately funded groups that pop up, are prominent for a while, then they disappear, they're somewhat anonymous and amorphous, and difficult to track. I've become aware of a few, logically AI.
I finally ate some of that jerky myself yesterday, Dirty. It is a little bit tough, but it's got great flavor. I thought it would be more tender being so thick, but I think I ran it a little bit long in the dehydrator.
Do you think the space that you're going to be operating in is going, in a sense, isn't it to become a type of war anyway? Because almost by the nature of what you're doing, you're not often going to be saying, and on this issue, we have consensus. The legacy media have got it right, and this is what we should. That's like increasingly unlikely. And do you sometimes feel the kind of angst that legitimate investigative journalism?
But that's some bashes that were perfect, and that I wouldn't call it perfect. I just got to remember to do everything exactly like I did when I do get it perfect. The thing is, I'm changing the cuts of meat all the time. Depending on the price, beef is so fucking expensive. And usually tenderloin is really expensive, but I got a great price for 3.5 pounds of it.
How are you going to navigate this space, and how are you not going to, how it's going to become increasingly about conflict, is what I'm saying. It's going to become increasingly dangerous. What kind of preparation are you making? What kind of prognosis you want?
You're not critical, you're complacent.
What is QAnon? I mean, there is no QAnon organization at this point. And when we were lumped in with that, it was just a means of smearing us. The reporter might have peeled off a few random Reddit comments, but they couldn't actually identify a real movement. To me, QAnon is basically
my phone screen is getting too hot.
National security state.
Just got a warning on my car.
January 6th to play on the legitimate but free-floating anxieties of people across the West, but particularly in the U.S., and to force them into a kind of political cul-de-sac where they're taking their legitimate, justified resentment of the political establishment and elites into such a bizarre place that they can easily be discredited, and they have nowhere to go except to be sort of nihilistic. So that's what I think people need to be cautious of, is that they're being led into a sphere of political hopelessness and nihilism where everything is so hopelessly corrupted that you just become alone and isolated from other people. There's no reason to actually forge alliances with people who actually might be different from you along common bonds, like the fact that you're working people who are being economically immiserated and to actually fight the elites. So that's what I think we need to be cautious of, and we can see. I mean,
there's no phone warning on the phone. I just got a warning on my car screen through Android Auto.
We don't need to be conspiratorial about it. I mean, there's a phone call you can listen to online by a 15-year-old girl who was in a car with her entire family hit by an Israeli missile. Her family was killed. She's trapped in the car along with her 7-year-old sister. She's calling an ambulance service from the Palestinian Red Crescent, and they can't rescue her because her car is surrounded by Israeli tanks, and she and her sister died. I don't need to be conspiratorial about that. We can see it all happening right in front of our eyes. We don't need to be conspiratorial about all the leaks that we've received at the Gray Zone, which we've published, which provide an inside accounting of the corruption of elites, particularly in the UK.
Yeah, venison makes great jerky.
And this is
my brother was supposed to get me some this year, and I barely heard from him.
Now in Belmarsh prison, may be extradited to the U.S. Julian Assange, and we now see new laws coming into effect in the UK to basically punish journalists for publishing true, verifiable facts like we have done, simply because they were leaked on the grounds that those leaks may have been obtained by the Russians. This is called the National Security Act in the UK. It was gestating in Parliament for 18 months, and it's being justified on the grounds of protecting innocent lives. They claim that WikiLeaks got innocent people killed by, leaking their personal information. The Pentagon itself has said that nobody was killed as a result of any leak published by WikiLeaks. But this is the justification.
They just didn't they just arrest somebody else for publishing some more
law, anti-free speech law, and updating it, polishing it off.
CIA shenanigans?
Imposing it.
I think just arrested somebody else for it.
So we've already had writers, contributors, Kit Clarenberg, detained, interrogated by the British counter-terror police when he returned home to visit his family as a British citizen.
Oh, I don't know.
Asking questions about me, asking about the Gray Zone. They wanted to kind of they wanted to find some means of destroying us. They seized his computer. They seized all his devices. The investigation is still open. Kit was able to leave. I don't know if I would be able to visit the UK, what would happen to me. But this is the world that independent journalists who deal with real national security scandals and, yes, conspiracies.
Good chopper.
We deal with conspiracy analysis, not conspiracy theories.
Kill.
This is the world we're now living in, where laws are being passed to criminalize our work. And just one final point to your question. We don't see political
that sounds good. Your spaghetti?
Like we had in the past, 1960s, 1970s. I know there was an attempt on President Reagan, but that seems to have been by kind of a psychopath. So the last one I can really think of might have been George Wallace in 1972. We don't know the truth behind that, but he was a threat to Nixon's re-election. We're not seeing that happen right now. It's because the digital assassination is more effective and clean for the national.
Here come the political texts.
So we can be digitally assassinated through our Wikipedia pages, through a series of allegations launched at us in tabloid media, or the Washington Post can run a smear piece on us, and they can print any lie they want, and I have no recourse against that. But increasingly, that's not working, and now we're seeing the state take off the velvet glove and start to pass new laws to basically criminalize what you're doing.
I get the feeling frequently, and I spoke to Greenwald about this, that there is a sort of real-time race. Alex Jones might characterize it an info war, but there is the realization that we are approaching the point where so many people are suspicious, cynical, outraged by state power, by legacy media malfeasance, by deep state interference, that Donald Trump is perhaps the chief beneficiary and yet the chief target of all this, that the more that a person is vilified, the more that it elevates their appeal. There was a survey of 40,000 people in our country, in the UK, that said, who would you prefer to have as Prime Minister? Current incumbent Rishi Sunak, the leader of the opposition and presumed next Prime Minister and Davos affiliate, Keir Starmer, or Vladimir Putin. And he's like, Vladimir Putin, like by 90%, like the people, with everything we know about Vladimir Putin, people recognise that what the state is. And it seems, in a country like ours, it seems risible to imagine that the two constituencies are the people that support the policies and party of Rishi Sunak and the people that support the policies and party of Keir Starmer, rather than that's essentially a unit. And then there's everyone else, like, what the hell are we supposed to do? This is the political system. Obviously, I have personal experience of digital assassination and how that can be undertaken. And also, though, now I have experience of it, by and large, how little impact it's had. Like, I'm out and about and talking to people. People aren't buying. People aren't buying. Of course, people that I've always been a pretty divisive person. People that didn't like me before don't like me now. People that disagree with my perspective on politics and morality and ethics and freedom and culture retain, and people that also significantly people that consume legacy media have a certain perspective. But even people that aren't particularly within this space, I'm talking about people that aren't looking at your writing or Schellenberger's or Whitney Webb, even people that are regular, felt like, that was real weird that happened. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't feel right. And like even when you watch something like this, the sort of recent congressional or Senate inquiry into social media safety or child safety, you no longer just have an organic sense of, oh, thank God that the government are doing something about online safety. As soon as they suggest an initiative, you're almost trained to think, well, what's this really? I don't believe in this. And obviously it was, of course, Mainguri that first pointed out they are no longer able to reliably control populations using their old model. They don't know how to.
I got a bouquet, Chopper. I'll send you a picture of it. Bouquet of bacon.
This alternative would be more decentralization, more devolving of power, greater ability to communicate, achieve consensus, greater access to
good old salted processed meat.
In the field of science or war, or the possibility for change is beginning to exist, and they are strongly trying to resist the trajectory of what would be inevitable change, decentralization, with information, to the exact opposite, a new form of tyranny, using as one of the curious techniques the constant shadow and spectre of old school tyranny. These populists like Donald Trump, they're like Mussolini, and it's a brilliant sort of smoke and mirrors bait and switch, because new dictatorship doesn't look like that. It's kind and banal and benevolent, and talks about convenience and safety and protecting your children and locking you in your homes to prevent you from getting a disease and helping you to remain safe from terrorists and all forms of terror. And I again wonder how this is going to unfold, because at some point it's going to require the galvanisation of a significant number of people and mass disobedience, or at least non-compliance. And I don't know, we might be in an unprecedented place right now.
Oh, definitely. I think first of all, people need to see through the marketing ploys of the new fascism, which it's marketed
Max
behind the
Blumenthal.
guise of liberalism in many cases. You said it yourself. We're going to have a more diverse collection of drone operators. The Pentagon is employing
Flowers. They
DEI
can give
to have
flowers.
female and drone operators and gender fluid commandos blowing up pipelines.
Instead of bacon bouquet, it's just bacon lined up.
We see video in destroyed Palestinian neighborhoods. Israeli soldiers have
Get those stinking flowers.
informal gay pride parades waving rainbow flags. So people need to people can easily start to see through the marketing ploys, the new fascism, and it's, as you said, it's not going to be presented to us as nakedly as the old fascism was, with goose-stepping
Yeah, I agree.
officers with swastikas.
Of course, he's got.
There are new laws.
They want his head on a plate too, on a platter.
Protection. We talked about the National Security Act being marketed to take down WikiLeaks and other organizations for harming innocent people, which is bogus. But then, how hard? I mean, it's much harder to argue with the law to protect children from pedophilia, protect people from revenge porn. There's a website I know about because a close friend of mine lost a family member to suicide, and this website had an influence on them. It actually encourages people to commit suicide, and the feds could have easily shut it down. I don't know if they need new laws to shut this site down or to arrest the people behind it, but it seems to me that they might actually be
driving,
these
dude.
kinds of sites as a kind of honey trap or to surveil people the same way.
We get off the freeway and I'll send it to you.
Would allow organizations like Al-Qaeda to fester
Half a mile away.
so that they can penetrate them and gain intelligence. So it's not really about that. It's about shutting down the speech of people who dissent and who actually pose a real threat to power behind the guise of protecting
Wow,
children,
it's actually,
exploiting
you're
children
not actually in my
to
last
shut down
10
people
texts.
who
Usually
actually
you
care
are.
about their future. And just one quick story to illustrate another point you made, Russell, about
You got a text from me Sunday.
are demonized so aggressively, become sort of inadvertently popular, or at least become objects of fascination by a kind of silent majority. We saw that happen with Trump. I don't know how many.
He had a nice burn target too.
indictments or
Some frosted
allegations,
cookies.
how many indictments have been made against Trump, but he's polling neck and neck or ahead of Biden despite that, and he's basically frozen out of most media. But then you have Vladimir Putin. He's the ultimate evildoer in the United States, and we've written about this, so I can tell this story. But my colleague at the
Look at that
Zone is
fucking
also
packed
my wife,
dis-
Anya
dispo
Parnton,
there.
have gone to
There you go.
a meeting of the non-aligned movement, which is countries who are not aligned with the West, meet mostly from the global South. They met in Venezuela, and she was able to interview the deputy foreign minister of Russia there. So Tucker Carlson wanted to interview Vladimir Putin because he interviews you, he interviews all kinds of people who are just objects of fascination, as any journalist should do. And Anya said, I'll see if I can help. I'll go to the deputy foreign minister I met, see if anything can happen there. And the NSA collected her emails, and then it looks like they leaked it to reporters. The National Security Agency spied on U.S. journalists, then leaked the emails to other journalists who are stenographers for Power in D.C. I think it was Axios and Jonathan Swan. And they then reported Tucker Carlson is trying to interview Vladimir Putin. This is evil. You're not allowed to talk to him. And when the real scandal was the fact
Taco
that
Gringo.
this spy agency, which is only supposed to surveil foreign people who are wishing harm on the United States, was surveilling
Had some
US
fire
journalists
tacos last night.
in order to foil a U.S. journalist who wanted the American public to just be able to hear the voice and thoughts of the person who is presented to them as the devil. And so that really speaks to the fear and the criminality, just the wanton criminality and disrespect for the rule of law of our national security elites. But it's really
Better
about
chopper.
the fear that the American public,
Smoke one for me today, buddy.
decide for themselves.
And well, given what you were saying about Kit Clattenburg there, do you think that there's something happening in the UK, that there's something particular happening here? And if so,
Yeah, I bought the
why?
wifey a new phonograph. She's got a nice vinyl collection going
talked
now.
about Kit Clarenberg being detained in the UK.
And the one we had crapped out on her.
And Kit is our
So I got her a nice one.
UK correspondent, one of the best critical national security journalists.
I wanted to give her one of those antique-looking ones with the big cone, the big gramophone type cone on it. But then I was thinking about the cats, and they would just fuck it up. So
police on the ground.
Got her one that has a lid on it. So
they asked him about his role in protests against Emmanuel Macron, a foreign leader. Joanna Ross, who's a lesser-known reporter who had worked for Sputnik, which is a Russian state-affiliated site. She was detained on her way back to her home country. They're detaining people left and right in the UK for their political views. And
there you go, Jody.
This has to do, first of all, with the fact that there are no formal free speech protections in the UK. It also has to do with the UK's role as sort of the anchor of US imperialism. Kind of the US pit bull on the European continent.
Really?
The fact that it's deployed by the US to carry out harsh actions that the US, especially...
I think it's all I mentioned. I thought you were too.
To get away with. And just the paranoia of the British elite about Russia, particularly. The British elite has been obsessed with Russia. It goes back to the imperial competition with the Romanovs and the Russian Empire. It goes back to the Crimean War. And it's just a festering paranoia. But it also has to do with the crumbling state of the British society right now, which is, I mean, I haven't been there in a while. I'm actually postponing various invitations.
No, you're very much a large man.
Of what I think could happen to me.
And that's not being derogatory at all. You're a big dude, man.
At an advanced state of decay. So, I mean, what we're looking at in the UK in many ways is a preview of Western countries that haven't gone this far, and they clearly see the speech of dissidents as a major threat. Just what you say and what you think.
Yes, that's interesting.
I mean, not just weight-wise, height, man. I'm 6 foot tall, and you towered over me. You had to slouch down in the picture.
In Canada and Australia, both countries that I thought were defined by kind of laissez-faire, liberal attitude to cultural and the issues and the intervention of government, were both so aggressive and assertive during the pandemic period. So I'm beginning to feel that there is a type of piloting that takes place in Anglophonic countries that may be utilised later in the United States.
Yeah, especially in the Commonwealth. And one of the differences between Canada and the US is the US population is just much more naturally rebellious and more diverse. And Canadians tend to be more compliant and trusting of power. And it really took the trucker convoy, which sort of came out of left field for the Trudeau Liberal government, to shut that all down. They would have kept it going for as long as Canada did.
That would have been awesome to watch his face light up.
The United States, we just have our culture is just different. And so it is really important when you sense that you're being psyoped, that your rights are being taken away, to, even though you are going to be the first line to be taken down like World War I soldiers jumping the trench, you have to do it. And we saw what happened to the first people that protested COVID tyranny in the US. They were basically portrayed as terrorists. There was a
he'd have been like, no, take it again.
false flag operation, but basically in Michigan's a diverse state politically. It's a red state and a blue state, like an extreme red state and a blue state mashed into one. And in the rural areas, people were up in arms about the COVID measures, the COVID restrictions. The lockdowns were destroying everyone's small business. They're preventing farmers and, guys who just like to, do DIY projects at home from going to the garden section at Home Depot, going out, even outdoors at Home Depot. So some more extreme figures protested at the state capitol, carried weapons into the state capitol, affiliated with a kind of militia. They didn't realize they had been infiltrated by the FBI. The FBI was paying their ringleader, and that the state police of Michigan was given a stand-down order at the Michigan State Capitol. I believe this was March 2020, right when the whole lockdowns began. A stand-down order to allow them to go in and create this fascist scene, which would then be blamed on Trump. And then they were set up, ultimately, months later, in a plot devised by the FBI to kidnap the governor of Michigan. It was a plot devised by the FBI. So basically, the FBI was trying to portray all people protesting the COVID measures in the beginning as militant terrorists who want to kill leadership. But there were so many decent people out in the streets in Michigan. And so that's sort of the price for rebelling at first. But the U.S. really saw the initial wave of protests that eventually found its way across the Atlantic, even to Germany, where the
All right, guys, I'm gonna try and get a live set up for you. I do have people there, so it may take me a few minutes, but I will get a desktop live set up. Love you guys. See you on the main channel. Peace.
Fully understood as an American, that I think makes us special with